Thank you for joining the team at Science Interactive Group today for our ESL on the HOL Cloud live demo series. Today's topic is dedicated to ESL's digital biology featured on the HOL Cloud. Before I hand the mic over to our host, let's take a moment to review the webinar logistics and give a brief overview on what to expect today. We encourage our attendees to participate in the conversation by asking questions and sharing resources. Please use the chat function to join the conversation. Be sure to toggle the window to all panelists and attendees if you'd like the entire group to see your comment or question. If you have questions for our host today, please type them in the Q&A box. You can find this section in your toolbar. We have distance learning specialists on the panel today to help answer any questions you have in real time. For questions pertaining to kit cost and customization, please work directly with your dedicated distance learning specialist once the webinar concludes. Caitlin will address any remaining questions at the end of the demo so you have clarification on important topics. At any point in the conversation, you can raise your virtual hand and our distance learning specialist will send you a private chat message to support your needs. Everyone here today will receive a follow-up email by the end of the day that will include a recording of the webinar and additional resources for you to reference moving forward. During our demo today, Dr. Caitlin Runne-Janzcy will provide an exclusive look at eScience Lab's first and second semester biology course within the award-winning e-learning platform HOL Cloud. A quick background on our host today, and we'll get started. Dr. Caitlin Runne-Janzcy is our Chief Academic Officer at Science Interactive Group. Kate has dedicated 5 years to bringing online college students a rigorous, high-quality, accessible science laboratory experience. Kate received her BS in biochemistry from Marist College and her PhD in pharmacology from the University of Iowa. Without further ado, please help me in giving a warm welcome to our host, Dr. Caitlin Runne-Janzcy.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and welcome everyone. It's so great to have you here with us today. I am going to quickly change my screen share over to the HOL Cloud, and we will get started. Okay, so what I wanted to bring to you today is a really fantastic new curriculum featuring the ESL Digital Biology course on the HOL Cloud. Many of you may have heard about ESL's new fully digital biology courses. These courses were designed to allow professors to adopt quickly during COVID so that they have an opportunity to provide a lab course to their students in a very short amount of time, as well as very easily adopt it. But our HOL Cloud has a number of features that are really fantastic and really enhance the experience of using the ESL curriculum. And so today what we're going to show you is the ESL curriculum on HOL Cloud. To get started, for those of you who maybe have never seen the HOL Cloud before, each of our cloud courses starts with a list of lessons for our students. And it's very similar for our instructors as well. So when you as an instructor enter the course, what you'll see is a list of lessons. As you're looking at the list of lessons, one feature in Cloud that you have is to require sequential completion of the lessons or not. So if I select require sequential completion of the lessons, all of my students must proceed in order through each of the lessons listed here to complete the course. They can't skip around. Or if you want to have a little bit of flexibility, you don't have to do that. One of the other great features that you can do here is reorder the class. If I want to teach Introduction to Science later in the course, I can move that there. I can also turn off lessons. So say amongst these 13 labs, I don't cover enzymes or cellular respiration. I can simply select those here and turn those lessons off to the students so they will only see the lessons that they're going to be completing during the course of the semester. Another great feature of the cloud is as you're starting to set up your course, you can provide a course introduction to your students to customize it to really reflect your personality or your style of teaching. So as we start, we could say, welcome Bio 101. We're excited to have you here. You can include notes, maybe a change in the order of lessons, or maybe you decide to skip a lesson. Students have shown that they don't need to perform that lesson. You can also put in notes on due dates here if a timeline changes for a lesson assignment. Click Save, and that note will appear to all your students when they log into the course. So let's take a look at the curriculum. So I'm going to jump over here to Student View. Once again, you can see my note from the instructor is visible here to my students. Each of our courses starts with the Getting Started section. The Getting Started section gives students key overviews to how to work through the course, including any relevant safety information, navigation information, and just general information that students will need entering a laboratory course. From then, the students can move into the lessons. And today we'll jump into Introduction to the Microscope. Each of our lessons has 3 sections: an exploration section that provides background information, the exercises themselves, and an evaluation section that tests the students' knowledge of what they've learned in the experiment. So let's jump into the exploration. As we start our lesson, we get an estimated completion time for the student. This is really important for our students so that they know how to allocate their time properly. In addition to that, we also have the learning objectives up front for the students for both the exploration, and then when we get to the experimentation learning objectives. From there, students can navigate using this next button or the drop-down menus to the different sections of the lesson. Our lessons are designed to provide students all of the relevant information they need to complete the labs. We assume that students maybe have taken some time off before coming to college. Maybe they haven't taken a biology course or a science course in some time. So we work from the assumption that the students need a rigorous background to make sure that they can get through the experimentation successfully. Students will read through the curriculum. They can enlarge the images as they're working through. As I mentioned, they can navigate at the bottom of the page or at the top of the page. And periodically throughout the course of the introductory section, the students will encounter question time questions. These questions allow students to test the knowledge of what they have already learned. These are auto-graded. They are always multiple choice questions. So students will go in the combination of a 20x objective and a 10x objective. The answer would be 200. Because I'm in an instructor view, I can't select it, but students would select correct answer and hit submit. And then they can continue on through the lesson. One of the other great features that comes with having the eScience Labs curriculum in HOL Cloud is the inclusion of interactives for the students to work through. So for example, here we have an interactive for students reviewing the parts of a compound microscope. So students can hover over the different pieces to see information regarding what a revolving nose piece is or what a stage clip is. Or they can navigate using the bar here to move through. What's important to note is that all of our curriculum, including these interactives, are all ADA compliant. We meet WCAG 2.0 compliance to ensure that your course is accessible to all students. So now that you've had a chance to see our exploration section, we're going to jump over into our experimentation section. So the experimentation section begins with an overview, giving a summary of what they're going to be doing. Once again, an estimated completion time, as well as the learning objectives. Students will then navigate to a materials page. In some cases, there are some experiments where students will be working with some pencil and paper-based labs, and that'll be noted here for the students so that they know to grab a piece of paper or a pencil, sometimes a timer, so that they're aware of what they need as they're moving through the course. We then get into our exercise. Students are provided directions as to how to navigate to the various interactives. Some of our interactives are from third parties. For example, we work with Stanford to use their virtual urchin microscope. And then we do have some that are developed in-house, which I'll show you momentarily. Students get directions as to how they're going to proceed, and then they can open the lesson or the interactive to begin. And here they'll go into the microscope tutorial. Each of our lessons is followed up by a series of long answer questions that the students will have to answer to show that they performed the experiment. Once they've completed the experimentation section, they will proceed to the evaluation section. The evaluation section, before they begin, will ensure that students have completed all of the required exercises and assessments, and will ask the students whether they feel they've achieved all of the learning objectives below. And if they haven't, they should go back and review the content, because once they start the evaluation, the course will lock. So you can see here for students, all of this information about the locking here. If they're confident, they can hit start. And once again, they'll move through these competency review questions. They're all multiple choice, and they're all auto-graded to complete the lesson. So we won't go through that right now, but I'm going to jump back quickly. As I mentioned, we use a host of third-party providers, as well as, just hit quickly here. We use a combination of different providers to create our digital laboratories. For example, the microscope used a third party. Let's jump over into one we've developed in-house. So for our enzyme catalysis lab, we've developed a very rigorous activity that allows students to simulate the effective temperature and catalase activity. So students will study the reaction between hydrogen peroxide and a yeast solution in different temperatures. Students are provided a very detailed background information prior to beginning the activity. Then they can enter the lab. They get more details about what they're specifically going to experiment on. And then they receive the procedure throughout the course of the interactive. So first they'll start with labeling the different bottles. Then they'll pour the hydrogen peroxide in to the various bottles. So the students have to work step by step through all of these activities to ensure that they are following all the steps. They can't skip steps to ensure they are having that very rigorous experience. What's also important to note is that each of these activities is ADA compliant, and that in a number of these, students will get the opportunity to get answers wrong or to make the wrong selections, so that students are really going through that process of really having to critically think through how to achieve the end outcome of an experiment. So now that you've had a tour of our digital laboratories, I'm going to switch to a different screen and show you some of the instructor-facing features that we have. Give me one moment. So I pulled up one of our instructor-based classes where we have some student data provided, so you can see what is available to you as an instructor and some of the benefits of using HOL Cloud for your course. So we're going to start with the course dashboard. I showed you before the notes from the instructors and how you can configure your lessons down here. So going over to the course dashboard, once your students have enrolled in a course, you will be getting quite a bit of data on how they're interacting with the course, to get a snapshot of their progress and to better understand how your students are doing. So up here in this top left area, you can see course completion. So this is showing how many students have started a selected lesson. So here, if we go to laboratory safety, I can see 3 of my students have completed this lesson and 3 have not started. Over here, I can also see the time that's being spent on the lesson. Down here, I have my student overview. In the student overview, I can see a complete list of all my students. I can see here that Sam and Tyler have not started any of these lessons, that Robert and Anna have started the lessons and have made it a good way through, and Anna Myers is a little bit farther behind the other 2. So the green indicates completed lessons, the gray indicates started lessons, and the empty ones indicate that a lesson has not been started. From here, I can select any of my students and see the grades they've gotten on a particular experiment. Down here. And then from here, I can also perform grading on my students. So once I'm in here, I can see these are the students that are pending submission. These are submitted and awaiting grading. So this is waiting for me to start grading them. These are would be lessons that grading is in progress, and these would be lessons where grading is completed. So if I go down here, I can select the exercise of interest. And what's important for you to know is the instructor, this down, is that for each of the data tables, for the questions, I can go in and I can edit the point value. So if I want this table to be worth 10 points, I can change that and hit save. So when I get into the grading component, I can give a grade out of that larger chunk. That one here. So I can review Anna's answer, I can assign the grade, and if I want, I can add additional comments. Great work. Data looks wonderful. In addition to all of this, you can also manage your class list through this activity. I can see the last login for each of my students, my email. I can see here that Tyler and Sam, not only have they not completed lessons, they actually haven't even logged into the system yet. And so perhaps Tyler maybe dropped the course. If he has dropped the course, I can go in here, I can select X, and I can remove the student from the course. In addition to all this, for our instructors, there are additional documents that are going to be available to you. You can see the full list of lessons. You can see the full list of materials required for the purposes of our courses. There are no materials required outside of those pencils and papers I mentioned earlier. Any associated documents with your course, answer guides, as well as the gradebook. So the cloud is really a very comprehensive way to provide students a really automated experience going through the course. It makes it very simple to have all of their curriculum in one place, to put in the settings that you want as the instructor, to customize the course how you would like it to be presented to the student, but also to make your life simpler by providing the avenues for grading, as well as those auto grading elements. And in combination with the great digital curriculum from eScience Labs, it's really a great way to bring your students a fully digital lab experience with all the bells and whistles. With that, I'm going to turn it over for questions.
Thank you so much, Kate. We've got a couple of really great questions in here. One from Professor Trimble is, will there be a chemistry and microbiology course like this anytime in the future?
That's a great question. We are working on a digital chemistry course right now. We are anticipating that will be live before the end of the year. We do not have any digital microbiology at the moment, unfortunately. Long-term, we are looking at it, but it's not something we've had a chance to start yet.
Great, thank you. Another question from Greg Sharp is, can the settings be changed to allow multiple attempts? I believe he's referring to the evaluations, and to allow the students to answer questions in more than one sitting.
So for the exploration section, if a student gets halfway through and they've done half the questions, that information will be saved. And if they come back later and there are additional questions, they can complete them then. The evaluation is designed to be done once and with only one attempt, and they can't come back to it. And that's really to protect the integrity. It really serves as a post-lab sort of quiz to ensure that students have achieved the learning objectives. So that one they can't, but in the other areas of the course, the exploration and the experimentation, they can sort of take a break and come back later.
Okay, but real quick, I want to bring up one point is instructors do have the ability to reset evaluations should they decide that a student can redo that. So
yes,
we can absolutely do that given an instructor request. Next question we have from Alexandra Bernard is, do you have any data on student outcomes from virtual versus hands-on?
Yes, so recently we did see a publication come out from the University of Maryland. I believe it used to be UMUC. I can't remember what their name changed to as of late, but they did do a publication regarding the use of virtual labs and found that students had equivalent or better outcomes using a virtual lab versus an on-campus hands-on lab. And in addition to that, a hands-on lab was shown to be equivalent to a digital lab, which was really exciting to see. They had some great data in there.
Fantastic. All right, folks, I'll give you another minute if you want to type any further questions. Kate, this is so wonderful. I appreciate you showing off the versatility of the platform. Oh, one more question. Do evaluations allow for partial credit?
Yes, so with that grading feature I showed you before, where you set the amount of points being given, you can adjust that grade. And when you're grading, you can say, okay, I want this to be worth 2 points, 4 points, etc. So there is that ability. And then when you're grading, you can say, okay, they've made, I feel like this is worth half a credit, and you can adjust that as you're grading.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, folks. If there are no further questions, I want to thank you all for joining us today and taking the time to see the wonderful ESL digital biology curriculum on the HOL platform. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Again, you will receive a recording of the webinar before the end of the day today with some additional resources and contact information. Kate, thank you so much for taking the time today. Pam and Lindsay, thank you very much for manning the chats. I hope you all stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you again soon.